Today's video is about the hip hinge. Now, if you haven't watched my breathing and stacking videos yet, please go check those out. Not only are those going to teach you how to breathe while your core is active, which is aligning your ribs on top of your pelvis, but if you can't do those while you're laying on your back or standing, you're going to have a lot of trouble doing it while you're moving, and especially when you're under a heavy load. So what is a hip hinge? It's an archetypal movement. We should be doing this all the time. Washing your hands, picking up your kids, deadlifting, power cleaning. Anytime you bend forward, there should be some hip hinge. And what happens is your leg is stuck to the ground, so your femur is locked into place. All that's happening is your pelvis is hinging over your hip. All right, and when your rib cage is stacked on top of your spine, everything is nice and stable. So it looks like this. So if this is a brand new concept for you, I want you to get a PVC pipe or a broomstick, anything that you can align along your entire spine. Because when you hinge over your hips, you want to make sure that your spine remains stable. All right, now again, this is especially important if you're lifting and working under heavy loads. You don't want that spine to be rounding and bending because that's going to cause trauma. So put this PVC pipe or stick along your back. All right, it should be touching your head, your upper back, and your buttocks. There should be a gap between your neck and your lumbar spine. You're going to make sure that you have your foot tripod, the big toe, the pinky toe, and the heel all in contact with the ground. You're going to stack your system. Ribs are down, pelvis is slightly tucked up, slight bend in the knees, and you're just going to hinge. Okay, notice how my back isn't rounding where the PVC pipe's coming off, and I'm not overarching my back where it loses contact with my upper back. The whole spine is remaining stacked, and all I'm doing is hinging over my hip. So now that you have mastered the PVC pipe or the broomstick, I want you to practice without. So get your foot tripod set, slight bend in the knees, pelvis is tucked up, ribs are down, reaching out. Okay, and then hinge back and forward. Now, most people think about bending down and coming back up. I don't want you to think about that. I want you to think about pushing your butt back and then pushing your butt forward. Not up and down, back and forward. All right, if you think about going down, you're going to round your back. If you think about coming back up, you're going to overarch your back. When you have that system stacked and your core is engaged, you're going to use your glutes and your hamstrings, and that's going to make those muscles strong and powerful. If you just keep using your back is going to give out over time. Now that you mastered the hip hinge, we need to start loading you up. You're going to go back to your old patterns once you start adding weight. So it's important to start light and even start with the weights elevated a little bit. That'll take a lot of tension and pressure off. We always want to stack our system before we get into the movement. So foot tripods engaged, slight bend in the knees, pelvis is tilted up, ribs are down. I'm going to hinge forward, grabbing the weight, and then pulling up. Core is engaged. Everything's loading through my hamstrings and my glutes. I have no tension in my low back. People who end up hurting their backs, they like to bend forward, they round their backs out, then they squat down and then they get set up. And what happens is they end up just pulling with their back, or they stay in that rounded position and they pull up this way. Both are recipes for disaster. If you feel this through your hamstrings and your glutes and not your back, you're doing it right. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Please click like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.